In this lesson, we're going to take a look at the MIB texture lookup, which is one of the ways that we have of assigning textures to our metal ray materials. So what we'll do is we'll use this MIB texture lookup as a way of connecting a texture to this piece of geometry. So let's take a look inside the hypershade. Now the MIB texture lookup can be found inside the textures area. All we need to do is scroll down and take a look at the MIB texture lookup, and you'll notice there are actually two. There's a texture lookup and a texture lookup 2. Texture lookup 2 actually has its own lesson. In this lesson, though, we're going to focus on the MIB texture lookup. Now, this texture lookup node by itself actually will not work. So you'll notice that if we were to click on this texture, that we actually have a couple of attributes, one for coordinates and one for the texture. Now let's start by first plugging in the texture. All we need to do is go down here, click on this button, and this will automatically make a metal ray texture node. Now this is the node that will actually hold the texture itself. So with this node selected, all we now need to do is go in and choose the texture itself. So let's go to the police wagon, open that, and there we go. Now you'll notice that the texture itself actually doesn't show up here just yet. So what we first need to do is go up to the coordinates and actually supply some type of coordinate information. Otherwise, this texture has no idea how to display itself. So this actual coordinate information is brought into place through this texture vector. So all we need to do is take the texture vector node, go to our MIB texture, middle click, and drop our texture vector into the coordinates. And there we go. Now you can see that this image is displayed correctly. So let's go back to the hypershade, and now all we have to do is middle click, drag and drop, and connect this into something like the diffuse color. Alright, now here in the viewport this actually won't be displayed correctly. However, once we render, this should render out just fine. So this is a look now at the texture that has been assigned to this piece of geometry. Now, this texture lookup node is really only going to be necessary if you are going to be exporting this shading network to something like a metal ray standalone. If you are actually going to be staying here within Maya, this actual workflow of using the texture lookup plus these other two nodes is really not necessary. If we were going to be keeping this shading network within Maya, we can actually use any of the standard Maya shading nodes together with this metal ray Lambert. So if we were to come back here, go to the Lambert, and just simply click on the diffuse color swatch, we can now plug in a file, just like any other metal ray node, and go to File Name, plug in the police texture, and there we go. So this provides a much simpler way of actually just connecting up textures to our metal ray shaders. Like I said, this is going to be very useful if you have the intention of exporting your scene to metal ray standalone, but if you're going to be staying within Maya, this should work just fine. And you can see once we actually use the Maya version of the texture node that it does get displayed correctly here in the viewport. So that's a look at the metal ray texture lookup